Excuse number 7 that airlines use to justify why they don't take action on contrails. There's no regulation or contrail pricing that is forcing us to take action. So currently, there are no regulations requiring contrail mitigation, so it's not a priority for us right now. We report non-CO2 emissions in the EU, or we're about to, but with no consequences, so there's no incentive to act. Future pricing is speculative. We're not sure if it will ever happen, so we focus on other things to create shareholder value now.
So I actually kind of agree with this, or at least agree that this is a significant blocker. Airlines, at least in the UK and the US, and to a degree in the EU, are obligated. They have a fiducial duty to their shareholders, and willy-nilly participating in voiding contrails is harder to justify to shareholders whilst there is no financial or otherwise penalty to take action. So I do agree that this is a real reason as to why airlines aren't doing a lot of contrail mitigation. Aviation sustainability is what we call a policy-rich area. It's one in which the solutions are likely to always cost more than the fossil incumbents. That's not true for some other sectors. So, for instance, for road vehicles, it is likely, and it is already the case in some geographies, that electric vehicles will become cheaper than fossil. And so therefore, in the long run, you won't really need any policy incentives because the economics will take over and people will just opt to buy the cheaper option. It also has a bunch of other value. Aviation sustainability, generally, its only value is that it doesn't warm the planet as much. It's generally more expensive and generally less convenient. It is in our economic system, it is really only possible to make the right thing happen for the climate through policy. And so that what this really tells us is policy intervention on contrails will be required in all likelihood at some point. Now, what that intervention is still something that's up for debate, and I think probably is a bit premature at the moment until we figure out exactly how to operate it. I personally favour solutions that are a little bit more ANSP-led because I think that tackling some of the challenges of finding individual airlines, which comes back to that validation problem, is a whole hornet's nest that's not really necessary, and it's quite heavy-handed and therefore kind of politically expensive to achieve in terms of legislation. But there's a whole kind of range of solutions there. If airlines agree that this is an issue and they want to do the right thing, then what they should be doing is being supportive of taking policy action. Generally, airlines well understand that whilst aviation as a whole is not particularly cost sensitive, if all ticket prices rise by 5%, it doesn't have an enormous effect. Aviation is extremely sensitive to changes between one airline and another. So one airline having a large additional cost in doing contrail avoidance that's in no way rewarded versus airline B, people will tend to just fly with the cheaper airline B. And so airlines that do want to be proactive on this, I would expect them to be advocating for a fair policy amongst all airlines to say, look, we want to be able to take contrail action, but what we can't have is us taking contrail action and the airline next to us not having to do anything and then their costs being lower because will just not exist if we do that. I'm a realist. I'm not expecting airlines to sort of start signing up for enormous fines, but I would expect them to be advocating for some degree of policy intervention to make it a level playing field. And in the short term, I would expect them to be actively participating in contrail trials so that we can progress that as well as we can.